So I'd like you to meet Michael. He is a client who moved to Serbia a couple months ago, and he wanted to jump on a call, or should I say on a video, to do an interview about why he decided to leave Sweden and move to Serbia, the differences between EU countries and Serbia, and other things that he came with into collision when it came to moving to Serbia and the pros and cons with Serbia. One thing I need to let you know is that I forgot to hit the record button on the second camera that we were using. And so there is only Michael in this video, and so you will not be seeing me in this video. However, I do hope that you enjoyed the video nonetheless, and if you like it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and I'm looking forward to your comments.
That's so funny how powerful the flashes in this country.
Yeah, it is.
They're so powerful. Are you filming me? Great.
Yeah, why not? Who you are and what you do, and what were you doing before you moved to Serbia?
So I'm Mike, and I'm from Malmö, Sweden.
Sweden.
Yeah, and Malmö is mostly known for Ibrahimovic, the football player.
Yes,
I think here
course,
in Serbia.
yes.
And also for having the most gun violence and bomb and grenade violence in Europe.
Yeah, of course.
I think we're in the top three.
What a climate to come from somewhere that's much colder to this climate here.
It's not actually that much of a difference, I would say.
You would say so.
So Malmö in Sweden is very way south. It's not what people imagine Sweden. It's more like, so the winter is pretty much the same as here, spring and the fall.
So you're saying we got the same amount of snow as you do in Sweden as we do here?
Not in Sweden in general, but in my city.
Oh, okay.
Which is so way south as you can come. It's pretty
okay.
much in Denmark almost. Yes.
And what first made you start looking at Serbia specifically? Was it taxes? Was it just a lifestyle here? Or, what would bring someone from Sweden to want to move to Serbia?
The thing was, I wanted to move from Sweden for several reasons, and let's go maybe into that later. But so when I was choosing country, I was thinking about maybe Portugal, since I'm in crypto, and Portugal is great at that.
For sure.
Well, it was. I thought wasn't exactly. For different reasons, it wasn't the perfect choice, maybe. And so I started looking. And before that, I had already been in Serbia and liked it a lot.
So you visited Serbia beforehand?
I had. To be fair, not Novi Sad though, only Belgrade and Apatin, Sombor. It's something you cannot really explain. It's just a vibe here, which is just, I'm not saying it's the perfect for everybody, but for me, it was really likable.
Yeah. So you visited before you made the decision. It wasn't just like I'm going to come to this country.
The decision was made to leave my old place. I hadn't decided exactly where to go. Serbia immediately came to. So there's also this with the European Union.
Of course, we're not in the part of the European Union, and many countries are.
And there are some advantages moving to another EU country and some disadvantages.
Yes. What does Serbia provide as a non-EU country that an EU country would provide to you coming from an EU country?
So the overall thing is, let's say you want to live in Europe, in a non-EU country, then Serbia is by far the best option, I would say. So that's the overall. So and then into details exactly what that would mean. For example, in cryptos, it's really good to maybe, for privacy reasons, it's great.
Serbia is better.
Financial privacy, Serbia is actually excellent. They are like the Swedes, not that I have any reason at all for
to hide your finances, but
all.
you respect financial privacy or personal privacy rather than having your information provided to the rest of other countries.
Exactly that,
Yeah.
because that's what crypto was all about.
Exactly.
Beginning. Also, for example, they don't shoot themselves in the foot like the EU does with the gas energy prices. Let's say, like they think they're punishing some country, and only thing that happens is their own citizens getting more expensive energy bills.
more screwed than anyone else.
That's the only thing that happens. While the country they were trying to punish are like, okay, whatever. They do something,
And so I just want to make sure that we're on par here. We're not trying to censor anything. So speak to your mind, like we're not trying to appeal to anyone. So if you're thinking, hey, listen, the citizens are getting screwed, and I don't want to say anything bad towards the country, well, the government is going to do as they please anyway. So
I want to say plenty of bad things about both Sweden and the EU.
But by all means, say what you need to say, right? Because a lot of people think that because a country is not part of the EU, somehow that they are subpar to being part of the EU. And
it's
so
the opposite. It's the opposite.
Exactly.
Except for, like I said,
there's pros and cons to each, but for someone who understands both pros and cons, it would be great to understand.
It would have been slightly smooth. But on the other hand, that part which would have been smoother with the EU,
yes,
was made extremely, almost as smooth, thanks seriously to using your service.
You think?
Yeah. So that part wasn't even a problem. So that takes away the advantage that any EU country could have had, except for there's a few other things. There's a little bit about.
So what do you see as the difference between an EU country and then a country such as Serbia who's not part of the EU? What are the pros and cons to each?
Let's say the cons first. I don't think this applies for most people. For most people, this makes no difference, but it's a big problem to bring in some goods.
Okay.
Like for a car.
Yes. And bringing a car into Serbia is a little bit more bureaucratic than it is for a EU country.
And expensive.
Yes, of course. I understand because we got more taxes and so on and so forth.
Actually, to be fair, it would actually not be super easy in a EU country either. Now when I think about it.
Okay.
Because you would still, even if let's say I moved to Hungary, I believe I would still need to, after a while, I mean, if I stay there for more than a year, I would probably eventually need to
register
my car there. So it would probably be the same, or not super smooth that either, actually, when I think about it. So, so we can scratch that, actually.
That's so good. So maybe let's look at what are the advantages of living in an EU country to, say, Serbia, who is not in the EU. Is there a difference in the lifestyle?
First of all, I make a difference between also let's say, the old, because this doesn't apply anymore, the East and West Europe.
Okay.
It's, it's outdated to divide it like that.
Yes.
Especially since most of the East European countries are also in the EU.
Of course.
Even though EU is typically a West European,
influence.
It's, so, but anyway, so in general, that's how I would say it, that the West Europe has peaked. It can only go down from here, and it is.
Yes.
While East Europe is, how you say, up and coming.
Yes.
That's just how it. Now, Serbia isn't extremely East. I think back in the day when it was relevant with Western, I think Serbia was considered slightly East, but not very super East. That's what I don't know.
Yeah, and of course nowadays we don't even consider ourselves the East. We consider ourselves the Balkans, Southeast Europe.
That's what I mean. This with Western is old, outdated, obsolete stuff. So, but I would say, let's say it's up and coming economy.
Yes, and so at what point did you go from it's interesting to move to Serbia to I'm actually doing this? And what made you flip the switch to wanting to move to Serbia?
Feels sweet. Yeah. So it was. One thing is I can't really even explain. It's just a vibe here, which is just great. And it's not that every person is always nice all the time, because they're absolutely not. However, there's still such a great, even if you get yelled at the store because you didn't have the exact
Change.
yes, or they're just having a bad day, or it was just hot that day, and they don't feel like working that day.
Yeah.
I still appreciate that. I would say people are really honest here. So they're not going to pretend to be happy if they're not, which is pretty cool, because that way you know that when they actually are being nice, which they are most of the time, and most people are,
Yes.
you know it's for real, it's not fake. Because if people here are in a bad mood, or they don't like their job, or they're having a bad day, they're not going to pretend that they like it.
Yeah.
You know,
and for sure.
You're going to know exactly how much of a shitty day they're having.
Yes, exactly.
And some, sorry.
No problem.
And some people will probably take that as a negative thing. I don't. I take it as an extremely positive thing that people are honest.
Yes. Yeah, and I find that very refreshing, especially for someone like myself who's lived in Canada, who you need to put this facade to say, oh, I'm always having a good day, and if you have a bad day, that it's bad customer service or it's inappropriate or something. You know, people here are raw to the point that it's almost refreshing that you're allowed to have a bad day. You're allowed to tell someone, hey, I'm not happy with the way you're acting or whatever it is, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's what's so good for me. I feel I fit in here because I'm like, okay, in a Serbian setting.
Yes.
I'm probably very laid back and chill. But in a Swedish setting, I'm kind of an aggressive guy. I can have my, like once or twice a year, I get my, freakouts. Not freakouts, not P. Diddy. Freakouts, freakouts. I freak.
Yeah, there's no baby oil involved.
No baby oil. There's no baby oil involved. But, you know, I can get, you know, how you say, if I get something bothers me, I might express that in a way that's not, how you say, socially
acceptable,
normal in a gringo country.
Yeah, exactly. Because, and I totally agree with you, because especially in countries like in Canada, if I got pissed off with someone and I showed some sort of unhappiness and I told someone to piss off or to sharpen up, I would be held accountable because I am being inappropriate, but meanwhile the other individual is actually being an asshole, you know, or not holding up to their end of the bargain or their end of the thing, and somehow I'm wrong, but the other person who's not doing their job is somehow right because you're being aggressive and you're
because he was being nice, even though he didn't do what he was supposed to do.
Exactly.
As long as
there's that sort of polishing a turd mentality. Where a lot of the Western countries say, "Oh, this is how things should be," but if you express your natural, behavior, that's somehow not good.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. That makes you a bad person there, and that. While here, I'm not. It's still not. I'm not saying I love to get yelled at.
No, of course, nobody does.
But the thing is, when you get yelled at here, which you will do about once a day, at least a subplane, like you don't have the correct change, or you're taking too long to find the change.
Yeah.
But then they will normally just grab the notes out of it, and that's such a cool thing as well.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's what a weird person I am. Like I find things like that really fascinating. Like
for sure,
or like the small details which are specific for one. Because I've been to quite a lot of countries, and I've never seen just that. That you have your bunch of note. Was
Your cash.
Yeah, and if you're taking more than 1 second to
They'll
to
grab your own
deliver,
cash.
they don't have time to. And in the beginning, I was like, what's going on here? Are they ripping me off? Are they? So I sort of kept. This was the first when I was here way back.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I liked it, but I was still like, automatically you think, are they just ripping me up? But they don't. They really don't do that.
Yeah, they just want to be efficient.
They want to be efficient, and I think it's really because that's not even something you could even in your wildest fantasies something that would happen in, for example, Sweden or anything like that. Anyway, it shows how you say how personal and how authentic. Thank you. People are here.
Yeah, I can understand. And so, being that you've been here not only before you actually moved here, and to now that you've actually moved here, purchased your own property, and everything else that you've done, is what do you think was the hardest part before you actually moved here or actually moving here was? Because there's many aspects to of moving here, because I know from our initial call, from speaking to each other, from you coming here and then dealing from still having a place back in Sweden to coming to here and everything else. What do you think was the most difficult part there?
I would say everything. The thing is, this is not my first time moving to another country. However, it's my third time. But the first 2 times is like, that barely counts because it was English-speaking country, which makes it almost
easy.
Yeah.
Yes.
It feels like, it's not even. And also, I was back then. It was student visa, so I didn't need to bother about residence permit and stuff.
For sure.
That was taken care of. This time it was pretty much everything. It was because I was going with to get a residence. There's a few different things you can do. Starting a company, maybe, or you can purchase a property.
Yes, which is the route that you chose to.
Buying a property it's a big thing. It's probably the biggest purchase you're ever going to do in your life.
Of course. Yeah,
it's a huge thing.
Like many individuals around the world.
So this idiot chose to do that in a country which is, where I don't understand. I can barely read, at least the Cyrillic. Like, I don't even know half the alphabet. Like, how you say? Yeah, one of their alphabets.
Yeah,
so
we have 2 alphabets, of course. Yes,
I barely know, and even if I know the alphabet, I still don't understand almost nothing. So it makes everything super. I mean, even if buying a property even if I know the language perfectly, is still how you say? It's not super easy.
Yes.
It's not super easy. It's a thing so now doing it when you don't know the language or anything, and also at the same time doing
multiple processes at once.
Exactly. Like, how you say, getting a residence permit, everything.
What was one of the things that maybe stopped you from pulling the trigger to Serbia, or was there not anything?
I would say nothing serious. Yeah, one thing is that it's expensive to import the car. However, it could be because, I don't know, maybe it's also expensive to import car to another EU country. I'm not sure about that. So maybe it isn't much worse than it would have been in Portugal or Hungary. Maybe it's possible. I used to do most of my shopping online.
Yes.
I'm not a big fan of going to stores.
Of course.
That part is not
the easiest.
It could be improved.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Because the online shopping part.
That I'll 100% agree. For someone who's lived here for long enough, we don't have Amazon, so we don't have the next day delivery. Temu takes 2 weeks to get here. The
AliExpress
even more. And then there's other online sites out there that can take even longer, and the quality's not as good, or they don't arrive on time. So I completely agree with you on that side.
100%. And what I want to say about for me, it's mostly Amazon I'm missing. It's not about getting lower prices or anything like that. The prices are good enough in Serbia.
Yeah.
It's not. It's about on Amazon you can get the weird stuff, like the non-mainstream is like. And when I say weird, I don't mean weird like. I just mean like special, like things that are not super mainstream. They're not gonna have in a normal physical shop, which is understandable.
Yes.
Because they can't have everything.
Of course.
So that's why I miss Amazon. Not that I want to get low. The prices you get stuff in Serbia is gonna be lower than prices on Amazon.
Yeah.
So it's not about prices. It's about the the supply, the availability. I don't think I ran into any legal problem where I would actually need a lawyer per se.
Yeah.
Maybe I did in the background, which you took care of, so I didn't even have to bother about it. Perhaps, but I don't think so. So yeah, it's not the legality is not the problem. There are a million other problems.
And so,
Not the legality.
so that spins me off into my next question is, what did you actually find that was generally harder than expected? And what was easier than expected?
Ooh, very interesting.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what happened. There was a lot of things easier than expected and a lot of things harder than expected. What was harder? Easier than expected was let's say the bureaucratic process, thanks to the help from yourself.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks to that wasn't even anything I needed to even bother. Even if there was a small hiccup, it was still super smooth. And the hiccup was because of the bureaucracy, let's say.
Yeah, people who can't take pictures. Yes, exactly.
Even the, how you say it, so-called negative things that happens to you, they're so really not really negative in the big picture.
Yeah. And so what was the easier parts that you found?
Easier than I thought. There are a lot of things.
Yeah.
The so-called bureaucracy was turned into a non-problem for me
Was the easiest
because I
process.
was getting help
Yeah, of course.
from your council.